Welcome to Press Pass Live for the OMFL week number 11. I can't believe it's already week number 11, and I have to introduce everybody to a new superstar we got here in the OMFL. OZone, welcome to the group.
Wow, superstar. No, it's good to be here, and you guys are doing an amazing job here, and we're having a lot. I know Vandy and Roma, also known as Maniac. We're having a lot of fun. Thank you for having us, and like I said, I'm here to help you. I have some time free on the weekends. Whatever you need, I can help out. And I got the call. To help out Nate today.
Absolutely. I haven't heard from my buddy Brady, and anytime Brady gets some more free time, we'll gladly have him back. But I need somebody that could just be here so that people don't have to listen to me talk all the time, and gives us a new set of eyes and thoughts and processes to add to the show. So I'm glad that you're here. We're going to jump right into it. We missed last week. I did not get a Press Pass Live out to everybody, so we got some catching up to do. And Daddy Leagues is back. Now, I know not everybody's a huge fan of Daddy Leagues. It's a good addition, but it makes life for me a billion times easier doing the show, doing the Game of the Week videos, doing the articles, anything that we need to do. It's just trading is going to be easier. Off season is going to be a little bit easier. It makes life a little bit easier, and I'm glad that Daddy Leagues is back and it's running. The new companion is out. If you haven't gotten it, you need to go to your app store and download the new companion app. There's a video that I just put out on Daddy Leagues today, so if you don't know how to sync your league, if you're in more leagues than just here and you have your own league, please go check out that video to walk you through. It's a pretty simple process, but now that it's here, we can use that. So I'm going to use the Daddy Leagues website instead of logging into PlayStation Remote, and we're going to break down some games with the OZone today and look at what we've missed since the last time we were here. I think the last time that we did this, we covered weeks 3, 4, and 5. So we're going to cover 6, 7, 8, and 9 because we're in week 10. There's one game left. We're almost completely finished with it. We'll be in week 11 before we know it. Hopefully tonight we'll be in week 11, and we'll bring that on the next podcast. So, OZone, let's do that. Let's jump right into week number 6. I'll show the games, and then we'll pick a game that stuck out to each and every one of us. The Buccaneers and the Falcons played to a 31-34 game in week number 6, and that's actually going to be the game that I'm going to talk about. So we'll rewind and we'll come back to that. The Chiefs lose to the Bills 22-10. The Colts fall to the Jaguars 41-34. A big win for Brady and his Jaguars. They've been up and down this season. They're actually part of my Game of the Week video for week 11, so make sure you check that out. It's going to be the Jaguars versus the Patriots, both teams who have lost as many games individually as they did last year combined. So it's an interesting team. That's a big win for him against the Colts. The Panthers beat the Dolphins 17-14. The Panthers are starting to make their mid-season run like they did last year. The Giants win against the Eagles 27-5. Our Eagles owner has been going on vacation. Hopefully he'll be back soon because that team is dropping games left and right. The Seahawks beat the Redskins 24-22. Those poor Redskins are in each and every game every single week, but took over a pretty bad team that needs a lot of work. So that team needs an offseason to get right. He'll have that team ready to go. Excuse me. Manny God is a very good player. He'll be much better next season. Packers with a 21-16 victory over the Saints. Steelers with a 31-9 victory over the Texans. The Bengals with a 19-16 victory over the Bears. Then the Chargers squeak out a victory against the Broncos 24-13. Chargers are one of those really interesting teams that win and lose and come and go, and I'm just kind of interested to see how they finish the season later on. Cowboys with an impressive victory over the 49ers 34-19. The Jets beat the Browns 27-13. The Lions with a 34-31 over your buddy in the Ravens. And then the Titans with an impressive victory 17-13 over the Rams. And that is a look at your week, week 6. There we go, week 6 games. So tell me, OZone, what game stuck out to you? Why did it stick out, and talk about it?
Man, my week 6 game has to go to the Dolphins, Arrow Eagle, and the Panthers DB. Now I've played DB twice already. Actually, I've played him 3 times. I played him once last season as well, and I know what he's capable for. He's got an amazing defense, but the same stands true for the Dolphins as well. They both come into this game very highly rated on the defensive side of the ball, and this game was no difference. Both teams offensively were identical, and when we say identical, we're talking about total yards for the Dolphins 253, Panthers 266, and like I said, defensive game. And I'll come out and say it right out of the gate. Both quarterbacks were just plain awful, terrible. I think Cam Newton had a 50 QBR rating. Tannehill had a 27. Kind of expected because of all the firepower being on the defensive side of the ball. The big problem, very, very tight game. But the big thing that stuck out for me was the turnovers. Dolphins were coming into this game as last in the league in turnover differential ratio, and nothing changed in this game as well. They had 5 turnovers, and that will kill you, especially when you play a team like the Panthers and DB. To me, that's the number one changing factor in this game. The Panthers had a +3 in the turnover differential ratio, and that was enough to get the 14-17 victory. Quite honest, Dolphins are pretty lucky in this game. They only got away with a 3-point loss.
Yeah, the Dolphins are one of my favorite teams in the league. I can't quite figure him out. He made a late run last season, late in the season, was playing some really good football. Kind of had some high expectations coming into this season. We kind of expected him to try to make a push for the playoffs, and you hit the nail on the head. He's just created his own issues with all of these turnovers. You can't turn the ball over 4 times and expect to win, especially on the road, and especially against a good team like the Carolina Panthers and that defense. The game, though, that I want to look at is going to be your game. The Atlanta Falcons versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. You lost by 3, and this was just one of those old-fashioned, like, NFC South battles. I know that you have only been in the league for a little bit now, but look, the NFC South has always been a division. I'm usually the Saints owner. I gave the Saints up this Madden to give it to my buddy Chaotic, who is also a Saints fan, and so we do this back and forth where I'll take him one Madden, he'd take some one Madden. So usually I'm in the NFC South, and I get to see these battles left and right. I got to figure out some way, somehow, like the last season this year or something, where I get to hop back in the NFC South because I missed it. And this is just one of those old-fashioned games. It used to be Brady and I that would have these types of games, but you guys just went at it, and it was a surprising game. The Falcons bring the number 1 offense into this game. They have been a powerhouse ever since they joined the league, and he showed it. He had 322 passing yards. He's a passer. He's able to find those open wide receivers. Only 62 rushing yards, but you do what you do well, and that's balance. 281 passing yards, 116 rushing yards. He did have a sack, and I think that's something to be proud of. Even though you didn't get a sack, you only gave up 1 sack. He is very good about coming off the corner with Clowney. He usually racks up 2, 4, 5 sacks a game, and you were able to keep him off of your quarterback and keep this game really close. It ended up being a 3-3 turnover battle, though, so that was pretty even, as both of these teams just kind of went back and forth. Looking at some player stats, Johnny Manziel, to me, it's amazing what this guy can do with a quarterback. He might be the best user of a quarterback. If Ducks and his Bills is probably the best linebacker user in the league, then this guy, Dwayne, and his Falcons might be the best guy using a quarterback. And he just picks up Johnny Manziel off the street, comes in, puts up 322 yards, 3 passing touchdowns. This guy's having an amazing season. And when he gets his quarterback Ryan back, it's going to be an interesting battle. He kind of gave up on the run, or you did a good job shutting down the run and keeping him from breaking over 100 yards. Freeman has had an amazing season, but you held him to 50 yards on 16 carries, where on the other side of the ball, you had 19 for 88 with Sims. That is an impressive thing to keep up with those Falcons and be able to win that battle. That's why I'm so surprised that this game was actually not in your favor. But the one stat that sticks out that shows why is these quarterbacks. Manziel, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Winston, 3 interceptions, the 1 touchdown. So though you controlled the clock, you controlled the ball, you had balance, you did have those tough interceptions that came back to get you. Julio Jones and Gabriel kind of do their thing. Those guys are amazing playmakers. Jones had that big 76-yarder on you. He had 2 touchdowns. Gabriel threw in a 45-yarder with a touchdown. Evans did his best to kind of balance attack over there, him and Safari and Jenkins. Both of those guys had 5 receptions each. Evans had a big 44-yarder with a touchdown. And on the defense side of the ball, it was Alexander really doing the job in the middle for you. 6 tackles. He didn't get any sacks or interceptions or forced fumbles, but he was just a good force in the middle. David did throw in an interception for you. Bethel gets him an interception on the day. I should say David got a forced fumble, not an interception. It was Bethel that got the interception for you. On the other side, for the Falcons, Rollins comes away with 2 interceptions, and Collins even came away with an interception, and the 1 sack was for Clowney. And like I said, that's a pretty good job by you. I am really intrigued just to watch you two go back and forth as we progress during this season. This could be a battle that is going to come down to the wire to see who can win this division. I want to give you a second just to kind of talk about this game. A tough loss for you, but something you should be proud of. Going on the road, facing the #1 offense in the league, and still keeping it to a 3-point game.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm more of a realist. I look at these matchups and I kind of gauge my percentage of what my chances are of getting the W in some of these games. And I knew it was going to be a tough game going in Atlanta, facing Wayne. I have a lot of respect for Wayne. I've done stuff in the draft specifically for Wayne's team to kind of slow down that pass rush. He's got Kerrigan and Clowney on each side. And it was a tough game, and that was my first time playing Wayne, and it was a chess match, and that's what I love about my Madden game, being able to play somebody that we're going back and forth on a strategic level more than of a game and what works in the game level. We went back and forth. It was a hard-fought fight, and he does really good, like you said, with his quarterback play. He gets rid of the ball really, really quick, and he's got his primary and secondaries reads down pretty wired down pretty well. We went back and forth. It was a tough game. I thought I had it. I got the lead. I got a 4-point lead with 38 seconds left in the game, and I thought I had it, and which was a huge victory for. It would have been a huge victory for me, but he's got Julio, and you got to account for Julio. And I did a little disrespecting there for Johnny Manziel. I didn't think he was going to have the arm strength to get it down the field. And between Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football, and Julio did what Julio does. And within 38 seconds, he was able to get a touchdown on me. So if I could go back and change my play calling a little bit on that last drive he had, I would have definitely done a couple things different, knowing what he's capable of doing. But it is what it is. Like I said, it was a hard-fought battle, and he's definitely Wayne to me is one of the top of the league. And I'll lose to him in Atlanta by 3 any day of the week. I'll take that.
Mark my word, this is going to come down to you two at the end of the season. I can't wait to see. Look for the Panthers to make a little bit of run. All right, they're going to do their best to keep this interesting. But this really division is going to be between you two guys.
DB's in the game. DB, that's another guy in our division that he's on the same tier. I think that Wayne and I are team-wise, and it's the same thing. It's going to be a hard-fought battle all the way to the end. All three of us have a really good chance for a wild card spot.
And now we just got to figure out how to get Chaotic rolling. You know, he's got some wins. Yep. We're going to talk about him in this show, but we got to get him rolling. That's going to be a really good division. So let's hop on over to week number 7. I can't believe really and truly how fast guys are getting these games played, especially a lot of these games fell during the Thanksgiving holiday, and yet, no, we didn't have to pause. We didn't have to wait. We didn't have to extend. Guys were getting those games in. So quick look at week number 7. The Texans come away with a 30-9 victory over the Bengals at home. The Buccaneers, your Buccaneers, beat the Panthers 15-7 at home. The Bills with a road victory against the New Orleans Saints, 34-14. That game kind of got away from chaotic late, and then I watched him. It's funny, I always catch his games late, and I always get to watch like the last drive or two, and he always plays extremely well and balanced and finding the right reads. Just something happens early in his games where he just kind of spirals out of control. Broncos with a 33-30 victory over the Jaguars. The Jaguars got me scratching my head just a little bit. I'm not quite sure what's up with them. My Cardinals come away with a 44-42 victory over the Seahawks on the road. A massive victory for me. I really needed that coming off of a bye week. The Chiefs with a 20-17 victory over the Chargers. Another team that makes me scratch my head. They're close, man. All the games that they've lost have been really, really close. I like the Chargers team, and I like what they're going to be able to do as this season progresses. The Colts with a 31-13 victory over the Jets. They seem to manhandle the Jets, but they've struggled in other areas, and it's another team I can't quite figure out. It's either big blowout win or a big blowout loss. They got to get some things figured out. Cowboys, possibly the best team in the OMFL, 23-21 victory over the Packers. Congrats to the Packers for keeping that one close. I would have not have called that to be a close game. The Falcons fall to the Patriots 35-31. That was actually game of the week, and I think I had actually called a 33-31 victory or something like that for the Patriots. So that game came right down to the wire as I had predicted. The Raiders with a 21-17 victory over the Eagles. The Rams 32, the Redskins 27. The Ravens beat the Titans 29-13. A really good victory for the Ravens team. That is an impressive victory because those Titans are really good. Steelers shut out the Browns 17-0. And finally, the Vikings beat up on the Lions 38-16. I think the Lions were actually going on vacation, so that was a CPU game, unfortunately, for him. But either way, it still counts as a win for the Vikings. So there's a look at your Week 7 games. Talk to me, Ozone, about a game that kind of stuck out to you.
I've got Week 7. I got Denver Jags, UT and Brady. Denver won 33-20. And it was, I got to tell you, it was all Paxton Lynch, man. 142 QBR, 80% completion, and 3 touchdowns, 429 total yards, 287 passing for Denver. And they just controlled the clock. They had a 26-minute possession. Jags had 13. Jags is coming in with good defensive play. They have the defense. They're struggling on the offensive side of the ball. They just need to get it together, and they'll be the complete team from what I can see. But they really struggled against Denver. Now, nothing to take against Denver. That is a tough defense to play against. But they were really they weren't able to do a whole lot as far as offense goes. And on the defensive side of the ball, like I said, Paxton Lynch shredded them apart. But again, with that said, Denver is a very, very well-balanced team. You don't know if you're going to get hit by the air. You don't know if you're going to get hit by the running backs. And then when you do get hit by the pass, they're very balanced on the receiving side of the ball.
So here's a question for you, because I've kind of asked this myself as I've looked at this Jaguars team. Again, check out the Game of the Week video that I put out there because I kind of discussed this a little bit. But I want to pick your brain. This is what I love about you and what you've brought to the league so far is you're very opinionated and you have an opinion about something. So the Jaguars have really struggled. Now, this was a team that lost, I think, 2 games last season, was supposed to make a very deep run, ended up losing earlier than expected in the playoffs. A team built up around the run and around the defense. He's a very good user defensive line. He and I have had countless battles. Brady is a great player. His quarterback play has really struggled this year. Bortles has just as many interceptions as he does touchdowns. Neither one of those numbers are high, only 6 each. He's got just over 1,000 yards passing. He's under 60% completion percentage. Is it time? We did get to see that some of Parrish Hill got to play a little bit this game. I don't know if that was for injury or if we put him in there just because he's just struggling. But is it time to see Parrish Hill take the reins? The guy's got 93 throwing power, 84 short accuracy, 82 medium, 72 deep. He's got 71 speed, so he can move around just a hair, 81 acceleration, so he's got a little bit more mobility than Bortles. But is it time for the Jaguars to turn to Parrish Hill and forget about Blake Bortles and maybe even move him because it is just not working so far?
Man, I don't. You can go either way, but I really don't think the problem in Jags offensive play. I don't think it's the quarterback. I don't think it's the quarterback. I think it probably has more to do with the playbook. I think it has more to do with play calling. To me, these two guys are basically the same guy. You look at Bortles and you look at Paris Hill. Rating-wise, they truly are the same guy. I don't see a big difference in one over the other. Blake Bortles, I tell you, I can name probably 4 or 5 teams in the league right now that would love to have Blake Bortles. So I don't think it's a quarterback problem. I think it's more of a scheme and a playbook issue.
Here, I think I haven't seen this often with my team. Let me just kind of speak from personal experience. Sometimes I can't even put my finger on it. I don't know if it's a head thing. I don't know what it is, but sometimes you just can't play with a player. I struggle running with David Johnson. He is my type of running back. I usually like him a little bit faster. I like super fast, sketchy type of running backs who can just hit a hole and bounce around, not the power type guy, but was super excited. That's why I took the Cardinals, was for David Johnson. I just don't run well with him. Sometimes it's just a mind thing. Here's some stats to kind of chew on, and we can pick this up later and see how the season progresses. Blake Bortles is 62% completion percentage, 98 for 158, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 9 sacks, a quarterback rating of 92.2. Then you look at Hill, Parrish Hill. He's played in a couple of different games, usually just in like injury type duty, but he's 12 for 15, 80% completion percentage, 140 yards, a 9.3 average, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, QBR of 128.9. That is a massive difference there. That completion percentage is a massive difference. I don't know if it's just happenstance, but if you look at those two stats and you look at this offense, I agree with you. You look at the numbers on paper, it doesn't make much sense, but you look at the stats, something's up there.
Sure. And then I'll even throw another thing at you too, because I think they're kind of married and they go hand in hand. Is you look at the quarterback and you look at the stats and you look at the play. Now look at the offensive line.
Yeah.
You go look at the offensive line. I'll take a good offensive line over a good quarterback any day. And there's definitely room for improvement, especially at those tackle spots.
Yep, I agree, and I think even my team personally is proving offensive line over quarterback. I have Jimmy Garoppolo, who's not terrible, but he's not he's not a top 10 quarterback in the league. He's probably in that 12 to 15 range. But my offensive line is all over 90, and they protect him, and he's able to make throws. I want to talk about the Cowboys and the Packers game. Now, I've mentioned this a couple of different times. I really do feel like the Cowboys may be the best team in the OMFL. I know I'm saying that. I'm going to upset the guys in the AFC. The AFC has been by far the powerhouse in the OMFL since we've started Madden 17. But this Cowboys team is very good, and it starts where you and I were just talking, that offensive line, probably the best offensive line in the league. I mean, this guy's moving people to the Saints, and it still doesn't bother him. He is still making plays. Now, kudos to the Packers. They kept it close. I would not have expected this game to be close. I played the Cowboys. It is unbelievable what he does. This team is fast. They're powerful. They hit you and make you earn everything that you have happened to you. And let's look at a couple of these stats. The Cowboys only allowed 175 passing yards, only 15 rushing yards, whereas they got 336 passing yards, 117 rushing yards. The Packers, though, were able to get to the quarterback. They got 5 sacks. Cowboys only got 1. There were 2 turnovers each for each team. 3 penalties for the Cowboys for 77 yards. Most likely those came either in a false start or a pass interference, and that will keep a game close. Look at Prescott, 365 passing yards. That's unbelievable. You mix that with 113 from Elliott, and that's a really, really, really good day. Prescott only turned the ball over 1 time. He did have the 1 touchdown, whereas Aaron Rodgers only 180 passing yards out of 31 attempts. He was 18 for 31. He did throw 2 touchdowns, but also threw 2 interceptions. Eddie Lacy, there's no rushing game at all for these Packers. I know they've been trying to figure this out all season, but only 10 rushes for 16 yards. You look at their receiving core, there wasn't a whole lot to brag about. 6 receptions for 81 yards from Nelson is about it. Whereas if you look at the Cowboys, Whitehead and Bryant each went over 100 yards, 7 receptions for Bryant, 5 receptions for Whitehead. Even McDonald had 3 receptions for 78, along with 46 with the touchdown. So this is just if you look at the stats and you try to figure out what happened here, this should have been a blowout to the Cowboys all the way. Even Klein, who came over from the Panthers, I should say, 2 tackles, 1 sack, 1 interception. Sedandrick threw in 4 tackles with an interception. But if you look at these Packers, they got after the quarterback. Rushing was able to do just that, rush the quarterback. He had a tackle with 2 sacks and a forced fumble. It looks like maybe the Packers probably scored on some defensive touchdowns here. This is one of the most confusing games. That's why I picked it. It makes me scratch my head. I wish they need to upload this to our YouTube channel so we can go back and watch it, because this should have been all the Cowboys, but the Packers were able to keep it in there. The Cowboys come away with a very nice 23-21 victory, and the Cowboys might be the best team in the league so far. It might be a little further discussion that we'll have at the end of the show about who's out there and who really are those top teams. Let's hop on into Week 8 and cover some of those games. The Raiders come away with a nice victory against the Chiefs, 29-24. The Buccaneers with a 17-9 victory over those Falcons. The 49ers win 24-22 against the Rams. Rams are another head scratcher for me. I'm just I got a lot of talent. I don't know. I just can't figure them out. Cardinals come away with a 29-27 victory over the Redskins. Hear me now. This Redskins team is way better than 0-9. This owner came in late, took over a team, I think, week 1 after the offseason was over, maybe week 2, something like that, and really got stuck with a team that is void of some talent. Give him an offseason. He's going to have a lot of cap. This team's going to make some noise. Man, God's going to be pretty good. Cowboys with an impressive 22-21 victory over the Seahawks. That Seahawks team is very, very good. He really has gotten some things. Mo's got some things figured out over there in Seattle. He's got that team playing well. Ravens with an impressive 34-32 victory over the Texans. I know I've said this all season, every Price Pass Live, every game of the week. Texans are way better than 2-7. They just are. That Massimo is a very good player. Anytime you can beat him, I got to face him later on in the season. That's an impressive victory for Vanderlei and the Ravens. Jaguars 17, Titans 10. Good victory for the Jaguars. The Broncos impressive 31-10 over the Giants. That Broncos team can stick it to you if you're not careful. You got to figure out how to keep that close. The Browns with a head scratcher here. Shocker, man. Give it up for the Browns. He's been fighting hard. Outcast has been trying to figure out how to win with this team. A long rebuilding job. He beats the Colts 23-20 in a very nice win. Hopefully something he can build up off of. The Patriots with a 38-31 victory over the Dolphins. Our friend the Chaotic and his Saints 23-8 over the Eagles. A CPU win, of course. But that kind of got him rolling, as you'll see in the next week that we cover. He gets another victory. The Steelers 22, the Bengals 14. I know that the Bengals have a lot of, Huday's got a lot of personal things going on, as we kind of all know his situation. So that's it's had to hurt his game. He's dropped some games here lately. But good news is he's going to be back on his feet here really soon, and he should be able to focus back and rebound really quickly. And then finally, the Vikings come away with a 38-17 victory over the Bears. Give me a game of the week for week number 8.
Week number 8. It's got to be my good buddy Outlaw. He got the first win of the season for them Browns against Colin, 23-20.
And congrats to him, because he could have melded in. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. And he's got, you look at that roster, and he's got a lot, and we say it every week, he's got a lot of work to do. And, Colin had a down week and a down game, but let's give it up to Outlaw. One of the big thing that stuck out was the turnovers. And both teams came into that game with 0 turnovers, throwing to each other. So I know Outlaw's been kind of susceptible to the turnovers and the interceptions, and he was able to play the best game, I think, that you can play with that team he's got, with that roster he currently has, without offensive line and that defense. And without doing any turnovers, I think that's what set him over the top. Did he do anything special? No. Quarterback play was mediocre at best. But the other thing that kind of stuck out to me was both teams had 2 receivers that had 6 catches apiece, including the newly addition from the Steelers for the Colts, Bryant. So, but other than that, I had to call that game out. I saw it live, and I had to, like I said, I had to give it to Outlaw for getting the first win of the season. And hopefully there's more to come, and hopefully he's got a game plan here coming in the off season, how to improve that roster.
A quick point I want you to kind of expand on. I'm going to throw 2 stats at you, and since you watched it live, you can kind of help me with this. Studfield did go 22 for 33 for 277 with 2 touchdowns. That's a pretty decent day from your quarterback. Whereas the Colts had to go with Scott Tolzien. He didn't have a terrible day, 12 of 17 for 175 with a touchdown. At least he didn't turn the ball over. But what happened there? Like, what were the Browns doing to keep that passing attack from the Colts to taking off? And what were the Colts doing that just kind of allowed Studfield to have his way with them?
Honestly, it was just a Colts down game. It was just one of those games where you really the Colts couldn't get a whole lot going on. Like I said, there's 0 turnovers, but it's just everything was going to the Browns side. And again, the Browns did what they had to do, and not turn the ball over and have some good plays and have some good high efficiency plays, low ball, if you will, small ball. I know Vandy's been talking to Outlaw about his roster, and now I know I've been talking to him about his playbook. And I think he's reaching out for help. He's receiving help, and I think you're going to see this team improve over time, especially with some changes that he's planning on doing.
Well, y'all need to let me take those classes because I could use some help myself. The game I want to talk about is the Jaguars and Titans. The Titans I got to play in week 1, and this is just a team that doesn't give up, that makes you earn everything. He and I had a really great game. That was one of the funnest games of the season. And then I played the Jaguars a little later on, and it was a confusing game for me. Brady and I have had many, many battles. We were in the NFC South, Saints, Buccaneers. He was the Bucks, and I blew him out. It just was one of those games, kind of like the Colts, what you were just talking, where everything I did worked. And I look at this game, and these guys just had a classic battle. 205 passing yards from the Titans, 170 passing yards from the Jaguars, 64 rushing yards from the Jaguars, 75 rushing yards from the Titans. 3 sacks, though, for the Jaguars, which seemed to be what made the difference here. 3 turnovers for the Titans. That is a big, big deal. The 1 penalty for 5 yards is not that big of a deal. Offensive red zone percentage was down at 67%. Third down percentage, though, for the Jaguars was 44%. So the Titans did a really good job on third down. But they continued to turn the ball over, and that really hurt them. 16 for 25 for 229, 2 interceptions for Marcus Mariota. Blake Bortles, I've been giving him a hard time now. He's only 10 of 16, which isn't not good, and 162 yards, not good. But no interceptions, 1 touchdown. That is pretty good. Again, everybody on the roster, if you have a helmet and you can play running back, you're going to get a carry for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Everyone touches the ball. I have always been interested if he would just pick somebody, like if he would just pick that guy that fits for him and his style, his offense, give the other guys carries, but only like 2 to 4 carries, maybe 6 carries combined for the next 3 guys, and give one guy that 16 to 20 carries a game. I think that would really improve his offense a lot, because it would allow him to really get into some consistency and get into a flow of the game, and maybe help increase his overall quarterback production, because I think guys are able to stop him because he's got so many different running backs that do so many different types of things. Sharp for the Titans had 6 receptions, 102 yards. The big guy for the Jaguars was Hearns. He had 5 receptions for 63 with a touchdown. An interception from Cyprin. I still think they have 2 of the best safeties in the whole entire league. Lamar also threw in another pick for him. And then there was a forced fumble for Jack. The Jacksonville Jaguars come away with an impressive 17-10 victory over the Titans at home. And that is a big win for them. They needed it. If they lose that game to the Titans, their season has the potential to kind of unravel, even though it's still pretty early on them. So there's a look at your week 8 games of the week, and we're going to cover our last week here, week 9. The 49ers fall to my Cardinals 23-25. Another game where I had to come back on the last drive of the game. I think I've had 6 or 7 of those this year. I've won the last 5 games by combined 10 points. It's been unbelievable how close these games are. But I come away with a nice victory over a tough 49ers team. The Dolphins bounce back. They win 17-7 over the Jets. They just tend to have the Jets number for whatever reason. Chaotic in the Saints with a 24-21 victory over the Lions. The Bears with a 34-31 victory over the Panthers. A tough loss for 0-0. He really has been trying to turn some things around lately. A spoiler for next week, he comes away with a big victory today over the Atlanta Falcons, which is a shocker. This team's going to have to go on a run here, though, if they're going to make something happen. Chicago Bears 34. We just covered that. Sorry. The Patriots fall to the Bills 47-41. Another classic AFC battle between these two teams. They are constantly going at it, and a high-scoring game indeed happened over in Buffalo. The Titans come away with a 28-25 victory over the Steelers. The Chargers with a 33-13 victory over the Redskins. The Cowboys with another big victory over the Giants, 22-14. And I'm starting to wonder if anyone is going to give the Cowboys a run for their money. They almost have that division wrapped up right now in Week 10. The Eagles, the 28-25 victory over the Seahawks. That was actually a CPU game. So the Seahawks struggled with the CPU. I had to struggle with the CPU, and the Eagles in Week 10 ended up having to get an overtime field goal to win that game. That's a tough CPU team. But hopefully that owner will get back from vacation and be able to play some of his games. Jaguars 23-13 over the Rams. The Packers 23-13 over the Browns. The Raiders 33-7 over the Texans, and a team that I wouldn't have expected that score, but the Raiders can do that to you if you're not careful. The Ravens finally to wrap up week number 9 with a 27-21 victory over the Vikings. And I'm kind of holding out hope that might be the game you want to talk about, because that is a very big win for the Ravens. Week 9 in the books. Why don't you talk about it?
Absolutely. Yep, this is the game. So, Ravens, Vandy versus Flying Bomb with the Vikings. I know Vandy. I know what he's capable of doing. But I didn't have him winning this game. We had talked before the game. I said, yeah, go in, get the loss, and go in and continue the season. This is a Vikings team that was going in they were 7-1 at the time. So it was a 1-loss team, had never played him. We know he's got one of the top 3 defenses easily this cycle. Really good team. And to see the stats that came out of that game is just mind-blowing. Total yards, Ravens had 327. The Ravens held the Vikings to 167, 29 rushing, and the rest was passing for the Vikings. Listen, the Ravens have been doing what they've been doing all season long, is playing really, really good D and trying to protect the football. They've been protecting the football, and I just didn't think that they were going to have such a good performance against the Vikings defensively. Bridgewater was pretty much a non-factor. He had 3 sacks, 3 interceptions. He just had a plain ugly game for him, and things never really got going on. I know I was watching the game. It looked like the Ravens kind of got their feet wet in the first half and then made the necessary adjustments in the second half, which kind of took them over the top, both offensively and defensively. I know there was a late touchdown by the Vikings in the fourth quarter, but the game, I believe, if I remember correctly, was already decided by them. Like you said, Nate, big win for the Ravens. But the Vikings are obviously in it. It's only the second loss of the season for them. They got a long ways to go, and like I said, it's a really, really good team. I expect the Vikings making the playoffs hands down pretty easy this season.
So riddle me this: what is the ceiling for this Ravens team? Because they're a team that I can't quite figure out. I can't quite put my finger on. I think that they know who they are, though. What's the ceiling for this team?
Really, they gotta, and I tell Vandy this all the time. You got to take it a game at a time. Don't worry what's going on. And the identity of this team, just looking at the roster, is defense. Just take care of the defensive side of the ball and try to run the clock out. Minimize possessions for the opposition, and you should be good. And that's what he's been doing all season long. He's been trying to run the ball even when he hasn't had success running the ball. If you watch his games, he's been running the ball. So he's trying to eat the clock up and let the defensive side of the ball trying to do its thing. I know Joe Flacco, great. He's got some good games, some mediocre games, some bad games. But Joe Flacco is not going to win games for the Ravens. Not the playbooks and not the playing style that they're currently playing. It's going to be the defensive side of the ball that's going to keep the Ravens in games in order to get the W.
Well, you heard it here first, OMFL Inside Source. The Ravens play defense. That's a shocker. We didn't know that. But I like Vanderlei. Quiet guy. You don't hear a ton from Vanderlei. All right, he kind of, he's quiet. But I love reading his articles. I love watching his team. Anytime we can get more teams to go kind of from that middle of the pack and make a run, I'm pulling for Vanderlei. I hope he does it. I want to talk about the Lions and the Saints. I got to give it up to my buddy. Of course, he got week 8 victory over a CPU team, but he followed that right back up with a game against Detroit Lions and another victory, 24-21. Not 1,000% sure that this was a user game. I'm a little edgy because I think that the Lions were just coming back. So I'm not sure if this was actually a human versus human game or if it's human versus CPU, but either way, a nice win for the New Orleans Saints. He allowed 166 passing yards, which is really good, but he did give up 101 rushing yards. Did have 2 sacks, which is pretty good from that young defense that he has there. He's completely rebuilt that team. It looks nothing like the real-life Saints, but he is trying to find the right pieces. The Lions, on the other hand, allowed 279 passing yards and only 78 rushing yards. Here's where I kind of scratch my head on how did he pull this out. The Saints turned the ball over 3 times. The Lions only turned the ball over once. And that is a big, big stat that usually makes a major difference in a game. Instead, the Saints playing at home come away with a 3-point victory. Simeon, who I really like, I think that has been a under-the-radar pickup for the Saints, and he really has built him into a good quarterback. Just has to play more consistent with him. Can't force the ball. He goes 23 for 32 for 286, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Stafford really struggled today, 16 of 27, 180, a touchdown with an interception. Really, no huge rushing game for either one of these teams. Ingram, facing his old team, only had 16 yards and 6 carries. I really personally would like to see Marshall get a majority of the carries for the Saints. He and I haven't really talked about this. I kind of let him, I try not to answer questions that aren't being asked, and he hasn't asked, but this is my podcast, and we're going to talk about it. I like Marshall. I think Marshall is a second-year player. He got him from the Redskins. This kid just needs some help. He needs a little bit of work. That offensive line's going to have to open him some holes, but he is fast. He is strong. He can catch the ball. I like Oliver, but I want to see what he can do. I know that he likes Coleman. I know that he likes that he's picked him up, but I want to see Marshall get a majority of the carries here. Brandon Cooks, 5 receptions for 34 yards. Pitta has 5 receptions for 107. I'll let everyone in on a quick secret. Brandon Cooks doesn't get used a whole bunch because Chaotic feels like he's being cheesy with him because he's so fast and he's so quick. I tell Chaotic all the time, shut up and get over it. He's your number 1 receiver. Put him in the slot since he's so small, whatever, but get that guy the ball. He is a playmaker. Let him go make plays. He's got to get the ball. He's got to get at least 10 targets every single game. Spread the ball around like you did this game. That's fine. Do what you got to do. But man, get the ball in his hands and reverses, kickoff, punt returns, receiving, wide receiver, screens, whatever. Get the ball in his hands at least 10 times a game and let him go make plays, or at least give him an opportunity to make plays. Saints have a lot of players who go out and make a ton of tackles, a young defense, big victory for them with a 24-21 victory over the Lions. And there you have it. Whew, weeks, what do we do? Weeks 6 through 10 here, or 6 through 9, I should say. Yeah, a lot of football games. And then taking a quick look, I'm not going to talk about any of these games, but showing you that week 10 is in the books. I think we got one game left. The Ravens and the Bengals. Do you know where that game stands?
It just started. I believe they just started about 5 minutes ago.
Well, good. Hopefully we'll be able to advance here very shortly. That is a look at your week 6 through 10, or 6 through 9, I should say. Let's take a quick look at some power rankings here, and then we'll talk about some standings, and then just one little FPR and one thing that kind of sticks out to you as we roll into week 11 here shortly. Cowboys are coming in at number 1 at 8-1 in your OMFL power rankings. They are my number 1 team also. I think that they are the best team in the league. The Bills at 8-1 are number 2. The Buccaneers, your Buccaneers, number 3 at 7-2. The Baltimore Ravens, your buddy, at 6-2 are number 4. The Patriots fall down to number 5 at 6-3. The Falcons fall to 6-2, and they're number 6. The Vikings, number 7 at 7-2. The Broncos at 6-3 are number 8. My Cardinals at 7-2 are number 9, and the Jaguars at 6-3 at number 10. A good even splattering of NFC and AFC teams there. So hopefully our NFC teams are pulling the AFC to come back to us, and we can hopefully make that a much tighter race, I guess, than what it has been in the past. Let's look at some AFC standings, some NFC standings. Talk about maybe something that sticks out to you in this. So the Buffalo Bills are leading at 8-1. The Baltimore Ravens are leading at 6-2. The Jaguars are leading at 6-3, but they're tied with the Tennessee Titans at 6-3. Denver Broncos at 6-3 are leading the AFC West. The NFC East is 8-1. The Cowboys. The Vikings are 7-2, leading the NFC North. Tampa Bay Bucks, your Bucks, are leading the NFC South at 7-2, and my Cardinals at 7-2 are leading the NFC West. Any surprises there? Anything that kind of sticks out to you with the standings so far through week 9?
I gotta say, I'm still learning everybody and seeing what's going on. So I don't know exactly where everybody stands from the past, but I gotta say that knowing what I know, Baltimore being on 8-2 right now, this is a tough division. You look Hude and you look Relmo. That's a really good performance by Baltimore at that point. AFC East, Buffalo is doing what Buffalo you'd think. They haven't missed a beat from last season, but New England's right there, right on their back. And then, like you said, Dallas is. It looks like it's one of the teams to beat. Minnesota, same thing. These are really good teams right there. Between Dallas and Minnesota, the Giants, they're creeping in. The Giants is a good team. I haven't played them, but from what I've seen, this is a team that's going to be all the way to the end. What's going to be interesting, both AFC and NFC, is going to be the wild cards. I think it's going to be very close, just like last year. And I'm looking forward to putting, what do we got, 8 more weeks left? 7 more weeks, putting those in the books and seeing who's going to make the postseason games.
Yeah, the conference that I'm watching is the NFC South. I think that's going to be a good battle to see who comes out of that. The Giants have a very pivotal game with me coming up in week 11. That'll go a long way in his run in the NFC East. I also am very intrigued by the AFC West. It's a very tight battle there between a lot of teams. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see who kind of comes out of that and who can kind of make the run there.
I will say with the AFC West is San Diego. I've seen a couple of his games, and that's, from what I've seen, the 4-5 doesn't do it justice. I think this is a team that, we're in week 10 and he's 4-5, but because of how tight that division is, I wouldn't be surprised if you see him up there by the end of the season.
Yep, I got to agree with you. So there you have it, week 10 is going to be here in the books in the next hour and 20 minutes or so. We'll advance to week 11. What'd you think, Ozone? Your first time on Press Pass Live. Did you enjoy it?
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Not bad. You know, doing little cybermetrics, breaking down some stats. I'm all in.
Well, good. I'm going to hold you to it. Next Saturday, we'll get you back on the show, and we'll do this again. Hopefully next week, let's look at some player stats. We'll cover the games, of course, but instead of looking at standings, we'll go look at some player stats. We'll look at some rookies who are making a difference here in the OMFL, and we'll also look at some other players who are making you kind of scratch your head, like the number one passer in the league right now is Colin Kaepernick. So for the 49ers, who are 2-7, Colin Kaepernick is playing absolutely well, or it goes to show you that he's come from behind a whole bunch. So weeks 6 through 9 are in the books. Week 10's almost completely finished here. Make sure that you go and check out the website, grownfolksoc.com. A new golf league is starting, so we're kind of talking about that. If anyone out there is interested in that, make sure you hit me up. I'll add you to the chat and make sure that you are getting to participate in that. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our Twitter feed. A lot of cool stuff is going on here in Grown Folks and here in the OMFL. Ozone, I appreciate you so much for taking time to be on the show with me, so the guys don't have to listen to me ramble on. Thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it. We'll be here next week. Good luck in your games this week, fellas. We'll see you next week.